I think it's fair to say that this video is probably the most interesting and intriguing of this entire series. It's called the and asset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the mechanics of a policy loan and specifically how it can be used. Now, I consider tools to only be as effective and useful as the individual who uses them and their respective level of education. I've seen throughout the many years I've been doing this, I've seen people use this tool to make millions of dollars with their business, with real estate, etc. But I have also seen it hurt people. I've seen it hurt families, hurt businesses. And that is very, very indicative of the flexibility of this tool. So I want to teach you how to use it the right way. Now, many years ago, there was a famous psychologist who created a kind of a diagram of the human being's hierarchy of needs. His name was Abraham Maslow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same path, that same logic, and walk you through what I consider the financial hierarchy of needs. And this is basically the path to get your needs started in one place before another using the policy loan. So there's a lot to teach you. I think you're going to get a ton out of this section. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about the and asset. In the previous video, we discussed, of course, the WMA, or a maximum funded whole life policy with a private mutual company. And so that essentially becomes where you store your short-term savings as well as long-term savings. So money could have come from your liquid savings account. It could have come from, so let's actually put some examples up here. So it could come from savings. It could come from the 401k contributions that you were making. It could come from IRA contributions you were making, maybe overpaying your mortgage. Okay, regardless of where the money came from to build your WMA, okay, by now you understand the value of this financial asset. So the WMA is earning interest. Well, let's list some of the characteristics first. So it's earning interest. It's earning a dividend. It is private. Okay, there are tax benefits. The list goes on and on. Looking at the policy loan, it's a powerful asset. But what I want to do before is really help you understand exactly what the policy loan is. So let's say that over the course of time, it could be first year, it could be fifth year, whenever it is, let's say you've accumulated $100,000, okay, in your cash account, your cash value, the money that is liquid, the money that is earning interest, that is earning a dividend, so forth and so on. What I usually do is I try to delineate the value of this asset with the asset of the policy loan. Now, I oftentimes explain this as you have two economic powers working for you, and this economic power or economic value, okay, is the first one, right, which is the WMA. The second one, okay, is the policy loan. Now, the policy loan, it is issued by the same insurance company that is giving you this account, or this cash value. So the insurance company, they will guarantee you and the best way to explain it is a line of credit. And the line of credit is all determined based on the amount of money that's in cash value. So the insurance company, in the contract itself, they say you can borrow from us collateralized by the cash value in your account. And you can borrow really for any reason. It's a guaranteed provision. It's actual contractual obligation. Okay, so this policy loan is very powerful. But how it's an additional economic power, okay, and we're going to put that right here, is because when that money is lent to you, and we'll put in here, there's the policy loan, we'll put in here that same dollar amount. When that $100,000 is lent to you, that gives you a total of $200,000 of economic value. So what do I mean by that? So first, this $100,000 that is in your WMA, it is earning interest, it is earning a dividend, it's private, it's tax-free and so forth. But the insurance company, this private insurance company, will give you a private loan against this value. It's not withdrawing the money, it's against this value. So you have $100,000 that is working for you. It's earning interest, it's growing, it has that compound interest characteristic to it over the long run. But this $100,000 is available to you to essentially increase the value of your overall assets and your overall wealth. Now, what it comes down to is you don't want to use the $100,000 that is in the policy loan value just because it's there. Okay, your $100,000 here in your WMA is earning interest, it's growing, it has all of those features, but the $100,000 additional value, the economic value that it has for you, it should be used according to your knowledge, your education, and really it applies to multiple areas of a person's life. And that's what I'm going to briefly explain. So the first area is going to be the consumer area. The second area is going to be business use. And the third area is going to be investment. So let's first talk about consumer use. So what's consumer use? Consumer use could be a boat. It could be a car. It could be college tuition. It could be maybe home renovations. Home renovations. The second use, business. This could be marketing. Okay, this could be overhead. It could be reserves. It could be a new website, so forth and so on. Investment purposes. So for investment purposes, this could be a rental property. Okay, it could be and that rental property could be a down payment. It could be improving or renovating the property to increase rents. Okay, it also could be potentially other investments. This could be a startup that you fund. It could be a fund of sorts that you are participating in or familiar with. But really, again, it comes down to really anything. You could purchase anything, but why would you make a purchase with the policy loan as opposed to some other means? And that is really where there's some additional education in the Insurance 101 section. Okay, but I'll give you a few reasons here. Typically, when you're making a purchase, it's either going to come from a cash account or it's going to come from credit, okay, using somebody else's money. Now, it comes from a cash account. If you want to make future cash purchases, you have to replenish that cash account. If you are using credit to make a purchase, like you use it for a car or use it for tuition, okay, you have to ultimately repay that. So there are a few things that are happening here. Number one is this provides a third option. You can still use cash, you can still use credit. This provides a third option, which ultimately makes it a better decision, if you will. But I want to express something that is very important. What you use it for doesn't make what that use is successful. Okay, if you cannot afford a boat or you cannot afford a car, tuition, or a home renovation, then you shouldn't use this. You could have $1 million in cash value, but if you do not have the capacity to pay it back, then you should not use that money. And that's the importance of having a scorecard. If the cash flow exists, yes, this is definitely a good tool for these type of purchases if you were going to make them anyway. However, if the income or the cash flow does not exist to replenish this loan, then it's definitely something you should question and really rethink of making that decision at this point. So the idea is when you make a loan to yourself from the insurance company, when they give you that loan, there's some things that you need to be aware of. Number one is you want to repay that, and you want to repay on a schedule that is often given to you by a traditional bank or a traditional finance company. That is a great rule of thumb. So if it's a boat loan and you have good credit, you should pay back at those terms. If you want a boat and you have bad credit, you're going to want to pay back on what a bank would lend to you at. Same thing with a car, same thing with tuition, same thing with home renovation or any other purchase. So you want to repay on the terms that typically a bank would charge you. Okay. The other thing you want to be aware of is you want to automate that process. Now, the interesting thing about the insurance company policy loan is the fact that it is extremely flexible. You do not have to pay it back. Now, they're going to bill you for interest every single year. However, you can defer that interest to the following year. So it's very flexible, doesn't show up on your credit report. It doesn't, there's no penalties if you do defer the interest. But at the same time, you want to use this tool effectively. Now, I personally have not paid interest or not made payments, especially in the early years of Paradigm, because I didn't have the capacity. But I understood that in the future, when I did have the capacity, I would pay that back. And the policy loan has been instrumental in the growth and building of Paradigm. In the beginning, when I took over Paradigm from partners, I took on a lot of debt and credit that the partnership had previously. And unfortunately, I had to default and I had to miss obligations just because I was trying to keep the business alive. And I really relied on my policies at the time to make that happen. But in the future, as I was able to make right with creditors, as I was able to increase cash flow and improve the business, I took profits and paid back policy loans. And to this day, I still use policy loans for a lot of our big purchases and a lot of our big investments. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is really transition to a calculator that is going to give you an idea of how the numbers work in relation to some of these transactions. So this calculator right here is built to illustrate the powerful nature of the policy loan. And as you'll notice, these numbers are what I used in the wealth maximization account, so they are identical. And if you recall there, this is the account which required almost a double-digit return in the market when you calculated in taxes and calculated in fees. So this right now is an illustration and a dividend scale that is at pretty much the lowest point in company history, just because of the state of our economy right now. However, looking at historical performance, it's been much better than this. But right now, looking at what it would require to match it, is essentially a double-digit return for almost a double-digit return for 30 years straight without skipping a beat. Now, that's not my intention here. I just wanted to remind you that the first economic power is very powerful. This is the second economic power, the second economic value that you have, which is essentially a line of credit or a borrowing power or a credit power to facilitate the purchases and investments that you make throughout your life. Now, one thing just to remind you, and I just mentioned it, but if you look at really the use of the policy loan, it should replenish what you are going to be using as an alternative. Okay, this essentially becomes your third option. Now, what are the alternatives again? It's cash or credit. Okay, if you're going to use cash, then you have to save up that cash and purchase something. In order to buy something in the future with cash, you have to replenish that cash account. Same thing with credit. If you use somebody else's money, a credit card or a car loan or other bank loan, okay, they give you that money, but you have to pay them back. You want to use that same activity with the policy loan. Now, the difficulty, and really when it comes down to the failure of using this the right way, is when individuals do not pay it back. They don't treat it the same way they would treat the other two ways in which they would purchase something. So I can't be more, I can't say that enough, and I can't really push that principle and that rule enough, because that will essentially make or break this strategy. So let's go ahead and put in some of the loans that we just mentioned. I know there's a saying that, as far as boats are concerned, that you should never buy a boat, but you should always have a friend that has a boat. And I don't own a boat, but I have some friends that own a boat, and I could tell you some crazy stories in regards to the boat, and I can definitely attest to that saying. So let's talk about boats. So let's say that your family wants to buy a boat, and the boat's going to cost $50,000. Now, looking at right here, you don't have enough money in the first year, don't have enough money in the second year, don't have enough money in the third year. Well, actually you do in the third year, but let's look at the fourth year. Let's say in the fourth year when you have $105,000 of cash value, okay, then you take out a loan from the insurance company. So you can either, we would prefer that you go through us, where we would help facilitate that loan with the insurance company. All it is a form. Sometimes you can even do it online. And online, you wouldn't need our help. You just go on there and request a loan, and they either electronic funds transfer it to you, or they will send you a check. So let's say that's that $50,000. So we'll do it in year 4, and let's just do one loan for now. Now, years to repay a loan, I'm not necessarily familiar with loan terms, but I would say, probably a 7-year loan would be common. Now, with zero interest, that would be $7,143 per year. So looking at really the idea behind this concept, I don't know what the bank is going to charge. A lot of that has to do with your credit, your employment. Okay, but looking at the ability to use this policy loan, it's guaranteed, it's private, it has flexibility. Okay, my rule of thumb is I try to pay back at an interest rate that's higher than what is being charged to me, which keeps me disciplined. So right here, I've illustrated the interest rate that's being charged by this company right now, which is 4.76%. Okay, the interest rate that I would pay back to myself, and I have good credit, and but I still use a 10% factor just because I have flexibility, I have privacy, and really those conveniences, those benefits, okay, need to have some sort of value placed on them. So if you look at a 10% figure, okay, and we'll do the accounts loan. This is essentially what is going to happen. So first, there are going to be payments each year of $10,270. That's $800 and change per month. That $800 is paid to the insurance company. Okay, you write a check, or you have an EFT that comes out of your bank account every single month for this dollar amount. Now, looking at over the course of time, you're going to see a few things. So over the 7 years, here are your payments. Okay, you end up paying $71,000. Okay, in payments, and that includes the overage that you're paying, as well as the interest charged by the insurance company. Okay, now, and that money, that profit goes to them. Now, only the 4.76 goes to them. The additional amount is reflected right here. So you end up paying essentially $12,000, $11,930 back into this account or into another policy that you own. Okay, so $1,704 per year is added back into this type of account. Now, what happens with this money? It goes into paid up additions, it goes into the overage, and it starts earning the annual interest that you see here. Now, this is a powerful idea, because not only are you earning whatever this $30,000 a year was earning, you're now going to be earning in addition based on the money that you've paid yourself. Now, where did this money come from? It's you. You're the one that came up with this money. You're the one that wrote the checks. It came from your production, your employment, and so forth. Okay, but nonetheless, you're still earning an interest rate that is far superior to anything else you can put it into. Plus, you're keeping yourself disciplined so that when you need money again for whatever purpose, whatever purchase, this plus the interest it earned plus the principal you're paying back is available to you. So let's see what happens because of using just this one loan. So you would have accumulated to almost $2.131 million over the course of 30 years. Now, because you've added this transaction onto it, okay, you have increased the end result by $40,000. Now, where'd the $40,000 come from? It was basically the overage you paid in, which is $11,930, plus the interest it earned over time. Now let's go to another transaction. I think we use tuition in here. Tuition. So tuition, really, it's up in the air. And there's a lot of ways in which you can facilitate college planning side of things. That's the reason why a wealth strategist is very important, so that they can help you determine the best way to do it. But looking at tuition, let's say 10 years in, you have let's say you used subsidized loans, and you took out $200,000 over the course of your son or daughter or both their college, okay, and it costs you $200,000 to pay off that student loan. So you didn't use the policy loan every single year to facilitate tuition, or you could do that, but I'm going to use this example, which is you use subsidized loans, you use loans where you don't have to pay any interest or it defers or whatever. Then once your child graduates, that's when you pay off that loan and set up a payment plan. You can share the payment plan with your children when they obtain employment and so forth. That's what you want to do, because again, who's going to be receiving the death benefit and the proceeds of all these assets? It's them, so they can assist kind of in helping you replenish the money that you put out there that you had saved over time, and ultimately a lot of that will become theirs. So here's again, tuition, let's put in there 8% instead of 10%, okay, because that's usually what a market loan could be. And we'll do an account loan, and we will do this in let's do the 10th year. And then we'll just do a number of loans. We'll just do one loan, and years to repay each loan. Let's say it's we'll do over 10 years. So now here's, essentially every year you are paying you're paying $2,500 a month for that $200,000 of tuition. Okay, and you are adding about $10,000 to in addition to what the insurance company is charging. You're adding this every single year to your account. So what does that do over the course of 30 years? Well, instead of ending up with $2.131 million, you end up with $2.3 million. So you add more than $200,000 in addition, okay, to what you've paid back, but in addition to what you were going to earn anyway with your savings. That's pretty awesome. Now looking at this $30,000 a year, what is that? Remember, that is you making payments or sharing those payments with your children to repay the tuition. You would have done it anyway. You would have saved up for tuition, you would have paid that, and you would have had to have replenished where that money came from, whether it was out of cash or another account or from credit. This is the same cash flow you would have had to come out of pocket with regardless. So adding the boat and the tuition in there, now you have $110,000 that you've paid back and $2.4 million, $270,000 more than you would have had. Okay, so let's go in here now and let's do a rental property or a type of investment. We'll stop with that. So rental property. All right, so a rental property. Let's say you did a down payment. You did a down payment of $100,000. You bought a 10-plex, or let's do maybe $200,000 for that. So 10-plex. So or is that 2 million? It'd be a little bit more than a 10-plex. Okay, so $200,000 for down payment on a 10-plex. So your first loan, let's use that loan in let's say year 7. Okay, so year 7, you take $200,000, you purchase that property. We'll just do one loan for now. And loan and payback rate. So this is where it gets a little tricky. You're going to want to pay back all net proceeds. So let's say in a 10-plex, you have, let's say $3,000 a month in cash flow. So that'd be $36,000 per year. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll pay that back over, let's try 10 years and see what that looks like. I'll do 10, so 12. Okay, that's close enough. And we'll do a account loan. All right, so right here, your payments every single year are $35,000, so almost $36,000, $3,000 per month. And what you're doing is you're taking that overage and you're putting it inside the policy. Okay, so you basically take profits, pay those back from the policy, or pay those back into the policy, into PUA, either this policy or another policy that you have. Okay, and it's going to be earning the subsequent interest, subsequent dividends, and over the course of time, you add in profits and overage of $150,000. Okay, but you add an overall, $400,000 based on the interest that it was accruing. So remember, and there's a lot more room in here. There's millions of dollars that can be used for loan purposes. Okay, but the idea is when you do use it, you are treating it as if it was a loan from another institution, or you're treating it as it came from cash and you want to replenish that cash with the subsequent cash flow. So there's another explanation in Insurance 101, goes into a few more transactions, but at the end of the day, this is the tremendous amount of value that is associated with the policy loan. You already have the economic value of the WMA itself. This just accentuates and adds to the tremendous value that this concept and then this strategy has. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Now what we're going to do is get into really the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and show you what we call the paradigm hierarchy of financial priorities. So this last segment is what I consider a very important part, and hopefully you guys have gotten to this section, because as I've taught this for the number of years that I have and have been practicing it personally, I really do see where individuals succeed and I do see where they fail, and it's important to me to really help educate you, because in the end, human behavior has so much to do with the success of this system. And I just want to make sure that as you start the perpetual wealth strategy, as you continue to use it throughout the years, that you use it in the right way, because money in the hands of the wrong person, money in the hands of the uneducated person is not used the same way as it's put into the hands of the successful person, the educated person. And that's really the power that you are going to have using this system has to be really dealt with in a way that you are able to mitigate the downside of of human behavior, which is impulsiveness, it's greed, it's fear. We really want to use a system, use tools so that we have a path or we have an equation so that we don't get ourselves into financial trouble. So as I said in the beginning of this part of the back end or our client page, I love the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, and I hope you're familiar with it. It's a very profound concept. Abraham Maslow. So let me put his name up here. Abraham Maslow. It's so simple, but yet it's so profound. So the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs is what I'm referring to. So what the hierarchy of needs represents is essentially you cannot progress through the different things you're trying to accomplish in life unless certain things are accomplished first. So he calls the foundation of the hierarchy of needs your physiological needs. Okay, so physiological needs. Now these needs are essentially food, water, shelter, clothing, and so forth. These are needs that if we didn't have them, there's not much we can do to survive. And so having food to be able to nourish us, water obviously to stay alive, shelter to be protected from the elements. Okay, these are things that we need in order to survive. And until we have anything else in life, this has to be accomplished first. So the next level is your safety needs. Okay, so your safety needs are, you live in a community that has laws. You have freedom from being afraid. You feel protected, security, and stability. That whole idea, whether it's a political infrastructure or whether it's a community of like-minded people. Okay, like living in the United States, where you have traffic laws and you have community laws and you have a police force, and these are things that really help to ensure the safety of a community. Now we can debate that back and forth, but in the end, safety is really once we have our physiological needs, that is the next infrastructure of needs that we seek. Now, after that is really when you get into a modern society. Okay, this is or just a society in general, and you start to seek relationships. So I'm going to put here this next rung is really love and belonging. So love and belonging. So this is the natural desire we have to have families, to have friends, to have associations with people, to be a part of something, be a part of a group, be a part of a team. The belonging, this idea is something that we're naturally as human beings inclined to do. So love and belonging is very important and really happens after we push through the safety idea. Now, what comes next? There's only two more, so stick with me. What comes next is the self-esteem. So self-esteem. So what does this mean? So self-esteem is essentially we feel like we have value. We make contributions. We're respected in a sense. We've mastered a skill. We've really separated ourselves from the next person based on who we are as a unique individual. Okay, so this could be obtaining a certain salary. It could be obtaining a degree. It could be whatever it is. It's going to be different for everybody. But essentially, we seek to find our place in the world. So that's the self-esteem idea. Now, the next idea is, and again, this is not a psychology class, but the next idea before we move to the financial hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. Self-actualization. So self-actualization is really, again, it goes beyond the self-esteem idea, where you're pursuing something not for money and not for prestige, but you're pursuing something because it's who you are. It's your inner talent. It is how you're created, how you find the optimal fulfillment. This is really where self-actualization takes hold, where self-esteem, you may have a good amount of finances and money in the bank and cash flow coming in, so you're not working for that end anymore. You're working toward who you are as an individual and what is the optimal amount of value you can create, which will give you the optimal amount of fulfillment. Okay, so Psychology 101, a couple minutes long. Sorry about that, but it's very important to understand as we apply it to what we call the financial hierarchy of needs. Okay, so the paradigm financial hierarchy of needs. Okay, so we're going to draw the same pyramid here. Now, looking at this pyramid, I mean, this is how we approach most of our clients, if not all of them. So the foundation is very important, and we've also, in our Infinite 101 course, we talk about financial foundation. This is a little bit different than that. Okay, so the foundation of this financial hierarchy of needs. So I'll give you just a few examples of what we would put here. Now, it's not going to be everything. Again, meeting with a wealth strategist, having them kind of go through your finances, they're going to be able to identify some areas that you may not even realize should be part of your financial foundation. And these are services that we most likely do not help you with, but we will encourage you and give you different direction as far as how to ensure that this foundation is fulfilled. Now, it doesn't prevent you from doing business with us, but at the same time, we want to really ensure that you start out on the right footing. Because when individuals start to plan their finances, they start with the most risky thing first, and then once that's all accomplished, they work themselves down, and that becomes a complete disaster over time. There's a ton of risk, very little control in doing that. So financial foundation, I'll talk just briefly. It could be your budget or an acknowledgement of where money is coming, where money is going. And you can also put financial statement in there, knowing your financial statement, knowing your scorecard. In addition to this, it could also be employment, okay, where you have a steady income coming in. You have steady cash flow, steady financial means. Because the case is with this, looking at that, employment with no money, but this doesn't separate the person that is financially free, has millions of dollars in the bank. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consistent employment, consistent cash flow. If that is not you. In addition to this, it also could be a will and a trust, your estate planning in check. It could be your reserves. Okay, typically we recommend 3 to 6 months of your expenses, sometimes more depending on your type of employment. This could be your insurances, okay, such as life, health, property and casualty, disability. All right, so financial foundation is very important because what this does, it really protects who you are, which in the beginning is the biggest asset that you have. It's the asset that produces the most amount of value, especially when you're getting started. If these things are not in place, you put in jeopardy your ability to produce. I'm gonna give you a quick story. There was a family that I met with years ago, and they were very discouraged with me because even though they had the financial means to do something, they did not have their foundation in place, and they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. They were very successful at a business. They had 7 kids, but yet they did not have a will or a trust. They did not have, they had no life insurance, period, not even term insurance, protection life insurance. They didn't have health insurance. And they also did not know where their money was going, where it was coming from. I mean, they had a lot of it, and they measured basically their financial success with the amount of money they had in their bank account. And that is a very risky proposition, especially if you have your family in jeopardy. They had invested in these very high risk, what they considered hedge funds, which they weren't a hedge fund, but they considered these investments where they wanted to put money here, and they had hundreds of thousands of dollars in these just random investments that they couldn't even explain to me, but yet they were unwilling to really get a lot of their other financial house in order. And I said, this is how I do business, and we did some term insurance on them, and I put them on a path to meet with an attorney and get some other things in order, and they did some of it, but in the end, they would not follow through with a few things. And that these are my principles. I've seen families destroyed because of the lack of some of the things that I put here in foundation. And so that's what I'm really passionate about, is making sure that individuals do have a good foundation. They do have a good path or a track to become financially successful. All right, so let's talk about the next rung. So the next rung we'll put in here is safety. So I'll put in here safety. So the safety side of things, this isn't like safety, like you put insurance on this or that. Safety is really the type of asset. Okay, so the type of asset here is going to be your WMA. Okay, something that is safe, something that is secure, something that can't lose value, that's going to earn, a tax favorable return. I guess you could put bonds in here. You could also put fixed annuities in here. Okay, something that is guaranteed. I wouldn't put like a CD or a savings account or a checking account in here, because those don't have, they aren't earning hardly any interest at all. When you take out taxes, it's not pretty. I would definitely consider them as part of your reserves. You can even use the WMA as part of a reserve. But looking at your savings account and other liquid accounts, I would not put them in safety. Safety needs to earn a little bit more interest. So then we work our way up to the next rung and or the next section. And I put in here your number one asset. Now, looking at how you can fund your number one asset, okay, it can definitely be funded from your WMA. Now, if you haven't guessed it, this number one asset is you. So what do I mean by investing in your number one asset? Well, this is where you look at yourself and look at where you are financially. And if you're employed, you have you're in a career, then you really look at the opportunities within that career and how could you improve the value that you're providing to your employer. So this could be training that you pay for, management training, leadership training. It could be organizational. It could be a certification if you're a programmer or a developer. It could be marketing training. Okay, it's basically training that you pay for, you invest in order to have an improvement in your income. So the idea behind it, and it doesn't happen immediately, but the idea behind this is you put, let's say, for example, you put $5,000 into a marketing course that you went to, and you learned all these new ways in which you can market, and you brought those resources, your intellectual resources, to your employer, and you helped improve the business. So the idea behind that is, you achieve a bonus, you achieve a raise, and that essentially is one of the easiest rates of return to get. So let's say you get a bonus, and you don't want to go to your employer and say, hey, I just spent $5,000 on a training and I'm going to do all this for you and I want a bonus. You're not going to say that. The idea is you want to strategically approach it where you create value, you serve your employer. You basically try to take with what's in you and provide the most amount of it to your employer in order to improve their success. Because most good employers understand the rule of reciprocity, and they will provide you remuneration. They'll provide you a bonus. They'll provide you money that you've helped them earn. So let's say in this case you were able to help your employer earn $100,000, and he said, listen, you've been amazing, thank you so much for doing that and stepping up. I'm going to give you a $15,000 bonus and let's say a $10,000 per year raise. Okay, so right there, look at the rate of return, right? There's no way you can achieve that in another type of investment. Okay, so that's a 300% return for the bonus, and it's a 100% return as far as a raise is concerned. Sorry, 200% on bonus, 100% on raise. So this is the idea, and really investing in you could be a number of things. Okay, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, investing in these different types of trainings and improvements to your overall success as an individual, this is what I consider one of the best investments and the highest yielding investment too. Each year, I literally spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches, on events, on conferences, where I go to be inspired, to be motivated, to learn new things, to learn about a new calculator, new planning techniques, or new ways to communicate with people, new technology that I could use to improve what we do here at Paradigm. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself and to improve my business. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next asset is what I consider real assets. Real assets. Okay, so real assets have a few characteristics. Real assets, number one, and this is it's going to require more explanation. Your wealth strategist can take you through this. But real assets is something that's tangible. Now, if you invest in a startup, or you invest in a business, or you invest in the stock market because you're educated, I don't consider that a real passive asset. I consider that your number one asset. That falls in this category where, if you put money into a business that, you trade money and you understand how that all works and you have a ton of education there, absolutely that could be a great place to use the policy loan, okay? Or the WMA, where you use the loan provision from the insurance policy to invest in these types of locations. However, if it is speculative in nature, okay, if you're just trying it out, or it's a passive investment, okay, something that's tangible and something that produces cash flow. Cash flow. If it's a flip or it's a startup and that again is, something that's more of a business, okay, your number one asset as opposed to a real passive asset. Okay, and looking at a couple other characteristics is you want to use that cash flow to pay back the policy loan. But it's a real asset, has tangible value. You can sell it for what its worth is. A rental property is a great example of this. And then basically anything above real assets is other. So looking at real assets, what I sometimes use as a benchmark is I say, investing in other is, the speculative investments. You put money, on black at the roulette, craps table, and hopefully, you double your money or triple your money. I've seen so many people that have started here because of that gambling nature that we have. And I say that is a very destructive way to invest. This is by far one of the better ways to really build your assets, build who you are, because that is what I've seen is the common path to individuals achieving financial independence. Okay, so I'll back up a second with real assets. Real assets, really the goal there is to achieve basically your cash flow. Okay, so your monthly cash flow from passive investments is more than your expenses. Okay, more than your expenses. So there, it's that should be the goal, and that's my goal in a sense. And I, frankly, I don't like to. I've invested some in others. I've invested in some startups, but I would have never done it had I not had all of this taken care of first. So hope you found this valuable. Really, I look at my experience, and it has been a billion dollar education. I feel grateful every day that I've been able to really meet so many different people in all sorts of walks of life and see what they're successful at, see what they're unsuccessful at. It's helped me tremendously. But now I'm able to take that experience and give it to you and help you as you are on this path to financial independence. So just a few things before we end. First off, this is not what you have to do. You may be up here already when you meet us. Okay, you may be down here when you meet us. Regardless of where you are, we will give you direction so that you can, in the right way, prepare to achieve financial independence. Everybody can do it. It does require following certain rules, following certain principles, and following a certain path. And if you do that, if you follow these rules, then your chances of achieving that is bar none possible. Thanks everybody for watching this video. Appreciate you. And again, for other information about policy loans and how to use policy loans and different case studies and examples, go to our Insurance 101 section.